3, 2,
Two,
1. Let's go! I am the host of the PBE podcast, Troy Tittlemar, joined in virtual studio, Matt the Skip Scipione. What is going on, man? How's Colorado?
Dude, it's good. It's really cold right now, but great. It's nice being in some different seasons for once. I'll say that.
Right on. I know you're busy. The show today was really cool. We'll go around the horn. I want to let Guy Oliver introduce himself, his title. He was the guest of today, and I think we got a lot from this show. Skips, what do you think?
I definitely think so too. And I think it gave us kind of a better perspective on what we see on site as far as the data coming in and the future of that data.
From the UK originally, born in Birmingham, working for Geolog. My title is Director of Energy Transition and Data Science. And the responsibilities of the Geolog are basically looking at data. What can we do with data? How can we extract information from the data? How can we deliver that data? How can we generate additional value for our customers? Whether that data be fresh data from a well, or whether it be legacy data stored in a repository somewhere. And then the energy transition piece is building on our heritage of working, sitting on geothermal wells around the world. We've logged about 100 or so around the world, and how can we get involved and using that heritage to further get into that geothermal space as well.
Coming in hot from one of the coolest lobbies in Houston. Let's just throw it out there. You got the Ducati. You got the first big wheel ever made. It is one of
the Maserati seats, the Harley.
Yeah, you have to come and ride the penny farthing.
I'll pay to watch Skips get on that thing and try to ride that.
Dude, I'll do it.
I think let's set up a petition.
I was going to say, I don't think the CEO would enjoy it, but I'll do it. I'll do a donut in that thing, man.
Look, there's a lot that dropped out from this show. We were familiar with Geolog. Obviously, we actually worked with you guys drilling wells in the Permian Basin. So, I mean, there's a lot here. There's history here. And I think that brought a pretty unique perspective for this show. I thought it brought some pretty cool value to this show of really understanding the depth of Geolog, the history of Geolog, but the real concerns, the modern problems, if you will, that we're looking for and we're driving solutions for, machine learning and algorithms, and taking this incredible amount of data that we're getting daily, hourly, that's reporting back, and you're QCing that, and you're trying to put it into a model. You're trying to make the right decision of where to perf or what we're expecting as we're drilling ahead. I thought there was so much here in that show, but for to sum it all up, understanding that experience and history when QCing the data that's going into the algorithms, into these machines that are helping us to make decisions, helping us to think about the ideas behind the data, is incredibly important. And the value there with Geolog, I thought was spot on in today's show with Guy Oliver. Sir, I appreciate you taking the time. I really enjoyed sharing this time with you. Skips, what dropped out for you from this show?
I mean, kind of to piggyback off of what you just said, having a higher data quality and a higher data resolution so you're QCing, like you said, on site, as we kind of discussed later on in the show, right? So we're not only just trying to figure out where we are on depth. This is kind of where we think we are. We know exactly where we are. We can correlate it with the gamma. And not only that, we're creating this comprehensive model of our reservoir. But I think what's the most important thing, and I think the thing that, in my opinion, that needs to be dropped out for any geologist is not only is this data coming in at a very high quality, but it gives you the opportunity to interpret that data in a much more effective and a much more precise way. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, as a geologist, right, that's the goal. If you can take data at face value, but at the end of the day, we're trying to make predictions and we're trying to make these high level interpretations. And we only can do that if that data speaks to what we're actually seeing in the earth.
Yep. And it's with cutting, it's real data. You can measure it. Yeah. You can measure it's real rock data.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And for me, Yeah, for me, first of all, big shout out to you guys. I mean, I love the fact that you give people the platform and forum to basically speak about some of the cool things we're doing in this amazing industry that we work in. Yeah, so big shout out to you guys. Really enjoyed it. It's the first time I've ever done something like this. It was great talking to you guys. It's let's do it again sometime. Yeah, let's let's do it again in a couple of years' time when all the things I said would happen. Just hope they will happen. Yeah.
There you go. We'll rock it back and say, look at this. They predicted this.
On this day, it was predicted.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, thank you for that platform. Yeah, I think what you're doing is great.
Right on. Thank you, Dr. Oliver. We really appreciate that. It's it's a lot of effort that goes into this, and we're very engaged. We believe in this industry. We believe in the people in it. And there's a lot of change, and there's a lot of stress. And the next 10 years, I think, for you at Geolog is going to be very, very interesting. The spotlight is on us, within the industry, but certainly out of the industry. There's a lot of what's going on with the oil and gas industry, what's really going to happen in energy transition, and how are we actually getting better? So the performance of operators, the performance of service companies over the next 10 years has a very intense spotlight, both external spotlight coming in from just general public, are we doing better? But also, the operators are paying attention now. It is a lot more specific of, who drilled that well? That was 10,000 barrels a day. Well, who logged that well? It was Geolog that logged that well. What's going on, right? Your phone is about to start ringing because we are picking up. The rigs are starting to drill more. We see the demand, and it's real, and we're doing the best we can. You got 40 years experience. I think the writing will be on the wall. I think your guys' performance will shine, and you'll have this internal spotlight and external spotlight on you guys. And I'm looking forward to how you handle that. I'm looking forward to how you be the face.
And we appreciate that we're invested in this industry, certainly here in the lower 48 and elsewhere around the world. And we're sponsoring a lot of events coming forward. We appreciate that. We need to do that. So maybe it's a shout out time for some of the events that we're sponsoring going forward. You want to do it?
Yes, this is exactly where we can take this. So Skippo, check this out. Activities, events that Geolog is sponsoring. Major sponsors of PBE. We thank you for that, of course, making this possible, keeping us running. And the SPLLA. The SPLLA is Wireline Association, right? It's a nonprofit that gets together in the Permian Basin. You got Asquith that always shows up, the legends of the Permian, Calvin Surpass. You could find him there, talking about the wirelines and the new technology of downhole stuff. That's what that is. Upcoming activities in the United States, March 10th. Geolog is platinum sponsor of the SPLLA Houston chapter for the upcoming event at Cedar Creek Bar and Grill in Houston, March 10th. Come have a cold one with the team is what it says. Let's see. March 22nd. You don't want to miss this event, it says. Geolog is giving a talk on advanced surface logging in Midland, Permian Basin chapter of the SPLLA. Our guy, Isaac Esau. He's going to be coming in. He's live on the mic, Skips. North American's Advanced Service Champion will be giving the talk April 13th. SPLLA again. Houston chapter will be held at Geolog's North American facility where Guy is right now. So that lobby is going to be filled. No. Are you kidding me? You guys got to start the Ducati that day. Find the keys. The Ducati needs to be started on that day for sure.
We'll see what we can do.
That engine just needs to be blown out just for a little bit.
Yeah. I'm with you. I'm with you. Support it.
Okay, you're gonna. Oh, cool. This is so Scott. Is it Centula? Centula? Is that his last name? Scott Centula?
Yep.
Okay. From Quad Operations, we'll be giving a technical talk on pore pressure. That's an interesting one. Pore pressure is.
Quad is a sister company of Geolog. They're based here in the office.
Okay. And then this one's cool because. Not to give it away, May 10th, Skippo, there is an invitation only for the 40th anniversary of Geolog, and it's a golf tournament, dude. And I think what's going to happen is we're going to take our gear, we're going to set up on the tee box, we're going to just talk to people about golf, we're going to talk to them about what's going on at Geolog, we're going to talk to all the people that show up to this golf tournament May 10th in Houston. plot twist. I don't know if you knew that, Skips, but
it's on the calendar now. I'm not missing
that. It's on the calendar, dude. All right, so May 17th, Denver Well Logging Society, so chapter of SPWLA, Isaac Esau, the legend again, is going in there. And so those are events to look out for. Those are events that Geolog's being a part of. And like we talked in the show, you're delivering, real data, interpreted data, the technical stuff. You're taking advantage of these amazing platforms that have been around for a long time. You're putting your people on those stages to take questions, concerns, to talk about the data. That's how you're developing the company, and that's certainly where we came from. That our boots on the ground. We're in the audience of those things, so we really appreciate your guys' time and attention to do those events.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Yeah.
Right on. Skips, you got anything?
I was going to say, well, just now that COVID's kind of coming down, quote unquote, and like these mandates are being released. I mean, this is like the perfect time to, get those communities back together, right? I'm not saying they're going to be where they were pre-COVID or even 10 years ago, but hey, let's get those conversations going again. Let's get those collaborations going again. Let's have a couple cold ones.
The Roaring 20s, man. The Roaring 20s. We're in it. I'm totally game for that. I think it is coming back. I think, collaboration in person is a big deal, and we can go virtual. It doesn't take much to go virtual on top of that for people to still have access to this very, very valuable front lines, information that's being delivered. So we're in for the long haul, just like Dr. Oliver is with Geolog. We're in it to win it. This episode of PBE Podcast is brought to you by our friends at Geolog. Geolog offers cost-effective, lab-quality, quantitative, real-time formation evaluation and reservoir characterization solutions to improve well placement, production forecasting, and optimizing of completions. They even have a service that can monitor bit wear while drilling. I've actually utilized their services while drilling wells in the Permian Basin, and we were highly impressed with the data acquisition process and the quality of the interpretations. These guys at Geolog are passionate about the data they collect each day at every well site. They've been doing it for 40 years. They are passionate about drill cuttings, passionate about mud gas data, passionate about what the data means and how the data can add value to an asset. They probably collect the most amount of drill cuttings and mud gas data globally each day of any privately owned surface mud logging company. Geolog always employ a consistent quantitative analytical methodology, whether on the well site or back at the lab. So data collected at one well can be compared at another well. We'll be doing a podcast with Dr. Guy Oliver, Geolog's Director of Energy Transition and Data Science, who will be talking more about what Geolog does and diving more into the types of data they collect. This episode is brought to you by Bell Geospace. Bell Geospace has the gravity data that you need in the Permian Basin to see the structures below your reservoir, to see the structures in the reservoir and above. It's all connected. It all has a lot to say and a lot to do with how much oil, brine, or gas you're getting. You need the data to make better wells. You got to contact Julianne Sharples, jsharples at bellgeo.com, or go to bellgeo.com, check out their data, check out what they're providing in their FTG, full tensor gravity gradiometry. The data is very high resolution. We did an exciting show, episode 91, with Bell Geospace, interpreting some of that data. Contact them today. Drill better wells. Let's go. We are officially starting the conception part of the PBE podcast with Dr. Guy Oliver from Geolog International, Geolog USA, Geolog Worldwide, whatever you want to call this. We're about to learn a lot about it. But first, what's the funnest part for me, I think, of the show? I may or may not have whiskey in my coffee. I get to sit back. Skip's going to sit back. And we get to hear the story from Guy Oliver. We get to hear his story, starting with, you love for rocks when you were a kid. Where are you from? I want to know it all. Guy, please enlighten.
Okay, thanks, Troy. Thanks, Matt. Hey, just before we start about me, a couple of shout outs. And I don't mean shout outs to my mom and dad and my dogs and stuff, but the important thing is I want to recognize our customers who believe in the philosophy of what we're doing, collecting, generating quality data. Our customers Guyana, Caribbean, Gulf region, Louisiana, East Texas, Midland, Permian Basin, Rockies, Northeast USA, Alaska, and all around the world. That's the first one. The second one is our people. You know, our staff around the world, their dedication and commitment to generating quality products is phenomenal. And those two things, you know, make for a great business. You know, we're able to generate products that people want. Anyway, me. So as you can tell from my accent, I'm from Far East Texas, like 4,700 miles Far East. From the UK originally, born in Birmingham, UK, not Alabama. And found my way to eventually to North Wales, but we'll come to Robertson. We'll come back to that in a minute. So 26 years in the industry now. I'm still relatively young, even though I have white hair. But it started before then. Okay, so back in high school, as you call it here, so learning geology in what we call sixth form, which is probably equivalent to grades 11 and 12 here in the UK. That's where it all started. So a shout out to my school, Queen Mary's Grammar School, founded in 1554. So it's a little bit older than this wonderful country we live in. I guess Mr. Holton, thank you, Mr. Holton, for getting me interested in geology. And then that led to Cardiff University, where I did my geology degree. Jan Alexander got me interested in sedimentology, which is kind of like where I went. That led to a short internship with Shell UK Expro under the guidance of John Marshall. Thank you, John. Where I kind of like worked with that team on some of the famous North Sea oil fields like Brentfield, Southern North Sea field like Clipperfield. People will know all about that. That led to, in Cardiff, shout out to Prof now Adrian Hartley, I think he was Aberdeen, did some great field work in northwest Scotland. Some of these people will know who these people are. And then that led to a MSc at Imperial College, Royal School of Mines, John Martin.
Is that the Imperial College?
The Imperial College.
Let's go.
One only. Yeah. And not just Imperial College, but the Royal School of Mines, which is like a really famous part of so living in London was really cool, especially as a poor student, you can imagine. But we had a great time. There's many stories to tell, but probably not for this podcast,
Yes, they are for this podcast.
but that's pretty cool. So John Martin taught the reservoir development module of that MSc, which is all about reservoir geology. So John was ex-Shell, so that was really cool. I did my MSc dissertation back with Shell on the Brentfield, very famous field in the UK, northern North Sea. So that really got me into reservoir development geology. And then beyond that, then my PhD, which I did at Plymouth University. Plymouth is a city in the southwest of England, under the guidance of Matt Watkinson and Malcolm Hart. That was really cool. That helped me to understand the importance of sequence stratigraphy, geological detail, all that sort of stuff right in PhD. The dissertation was focused on high-resolution sequence stratigraphy, early diagenesis. I had some really great field areas. So I had two field areas. One was in southern England on the Dorset coastline, which if you've never been, is kind of like really spectacular, fantastic petroleum system. The other one was in central Portuguese coastline in the Hotareve Lusitanian Basin. So that was really tough, like spending a field season in Portugal. But hey, someone has to do it.
Yeah,
so that was
your sacrifice will not go unnoticed. I just want to know.
So that then fast forwarded to joining Robertson in the UK, and I was there basically. I guess spent maybe 15 years in the UK, and then moved over to Houston. But that really kind of drilled down everything that's happened since has been because of Robertson, some key people in Robertson. So North Wales, key people such as Richard Fowler, who was the CEO of the company, Simon Kendall, Rob Crossley, Paddy Clark, John Berry. All these names mean a lot to me, and they kind of like taught me everything from the importance of data, getting hold of data, wrapping your arms around data, but then crucially doing something useful or valuable to that data such that the customers can get something from it. They also was a busy consultancy, worldwide focus. They also taught me, as John Berry would say, the importance of a pound. I mean, a pound coin, not a pound in weight. And in terms of that, by that I mean, being able to generate work, data, products efficiently, effectively, and generating value for the customer.
Let's rock it back real quick. I want to rock it back, as Skips would say, to your geography and your high school, your 11th and 12th grade, your attraction to geography. You're talking about kind of the landscapes and the edges of the continents and kind of the oceans, like, right? You're mapping the world, and that's where it all began. That's geography is what locked you into geology.
Yeah, you got it right, because at the time, I couldn't even spell geology. Yeah, I didn't need to know, because geography was taught back in the UK. There was human geography and physical geography. The physical geography was the bit I was really interested in. That was weathering, erosion, deep environments, that type of thing. And that led. And then we did a geology course only in what we call sixth form. And so that was a really cool thing. And that really is where it all started.
Wow. How many did everybody have to go through that class? Did the whole school have to go through?
It was optional. So you basically, when you're in sixth form, at the time, you got to pick studies that you want to do, and geology was one of the options. So I picked that along with other subjects like biology and chemistry. And,
right on. What did your mom and dad do? The genes that made you, your mom and dad, are they scientists?
No, my dad's an accountant. My mom's a great mom and was basically, at the time she was a estate agent, a realtor. So yeah, no, there was no geology bones at all in the genes in the family. So no idea where it came from, but no, it's been pretty cool ever since.
When did you get your PhD?
I got it in 1996.
1996. So your PhD was sedimentology focused and early diagenesis. You're talking about, a hydrothermal event, hot waters, or something coming in after the sedimentology has made itself and put itself together under gravity. Something comes in and alters the porosity. It alters the features that's happening in the sedimentology. Is that what you're saying with early diagenesis?
It's high resolution sequence digging. So it's basically about how a basin fills, okay, with sea level, relative sea level rises and falls, and basically when sediment is deposited, depending on where that sediment is, whether it's in shallow water, whether it's subaerial, then different early diagenetic effects happen. So the point of the dissertation was, can we use one to predict the other? So at a parasequence boundary, various things happen. At a low span systems track boundary or transgressive surface, various things happen. So that was the whole purpose of it. That was pretty cool. So it's all about basin fill and tracking basin fill using sedimentology and early diagenesis. It was a long time ago, 1996. Oasis was a bit big in terms of music at the time. So how long ago was 1996? What, nearly 30 years ago? I don't know.
It was. I think it was the last time the Cowboys won a Super Bowl. I think. Or maybe
it's a good year for you, Troy. That's a great year for you.
Still riding that one.
Still waiting, yeah? Still waiting.
All right. So, and then when you get into Robertson, how did that go? You're a PhD candidate. I mean, you're like the cream of the crop at a school. You're the PhD. You're graduating. You're going to go into the workforce. How did you develop the relationships with those people at Robertson, or how did you actually get that job? Did you just go pound on the door and ask for an opportunity? What happened?
Yeah, it's contacts as always. So basically, it was probably the toughest interview I've ever had, and I have to thank Rob Crossley for that. And I hope he'll listen to this. But it was like over a number of days. There was lots of talking, lots of testing. But I joined it, and you join it. Even though I've got this qualification, you join at the bottom of the pile, yeah. And I remember distinctly, first day I was really proud. I was there. Went into the office, suit, tie, shiny new pen, all that sort of stuff. And I sat in my office, and they dumped a load of, literally, they dumped. It was Paddy Clark's fault. He dumped a load of cuttings on my desk and said, "Here you are from the Allison field, which is the North Sea field. Here you are. Do something with this. We need to report to the customer." This was Monday morning. "We need to report to the customer Friday afternoon." And then he walked off. And then I thought, "Oh, okay. What am I supposed to do with this?" But anyway, we got through it, and I was really proud because it was the first time I'd never done something like that in that short space of time. It was like it was basically 4.5 days, and the customer needed the data. So that kind of that was a starting point. But I kind of built up through that, and ended up being director of that company and running the tech services group and traveling the world as well. So that's a great thing about that business. It was based in North Wales, but it had a reach all around the world. So I was spending a lot of time in the Middle East, North Africa, Southeast Asia, obviously Norway, UK, etc., etc. So it's really cool from that point of view. You get to go to really nice. Well, every place is interesting. You get to go to places off the beaten track. Like if anyone, those Hassi Massou in central Algeria, Khartoum in Sudan. You get to go to nice places like Perth in Western Australia.
You mentioned Sudan. You mentioned Sudan. And in a previous call, getting to know you, setting up this call, you got a real wild story. Can you go back to your time and what you were doing while you were in Sudan and what happened while you were there real quick? Can we put this on record?
So it was summer 2005. I was with Pat Barnard, who's a colleague and a good friend. And we, the detail, my memory's a bit sketchy, but we'd done some work for the national labs, Sudan National Labs. It was a geochemistry project, and we'd gone over there to present the data. So their labs and their offices on the outskirts of Khartoum. I'm sure people who listen to this podcast, some of them will have been to Khartoum. It was 2005, I think, if I remember rightly, August, and we were presenting the results. It was in the morning, and I just think of them. So we'd driven out to this place, and Pat was presenting, and I looked out the window at one point, and I could see smoke rising where the downtown was, which was about 20 miles away. And then suddenly, the guys that we were with, they all started. You could tell they were defocused on what Pat was talking about, not because of Pat, but because something was going on. And suddenly, one guy stood up and said, "We're going to have to." The guy in charge, "We're going to have to stop this presentation. We've got to get you back to the hotel. There's problems in Khartoum." So okay, fine. So they bundled us back into one of these vans that have curtains on the windows. So they bundled us back into this van, and we drove back into the city centre. And what we realised was that as we kind of turned a corner, there was a full-blown riot going on, looting, broken glass, cars set on fire, cars overturned. And this guy had to pick his way through all this to get us to the hotel, which is the only kind of 3 or 4 star, 3-star hotel in Khartoum, where most of the Western people stay. We walked in, and all the UN guards were there, basically with their guns pointed outwards onto the street. And we got in. What is going on? And so I went up to the room, turned on BBC News, and there was what happened was it was just at the time when they kind of had this peace in Sudan, and the vice president, who was from one faction, had been killed in a helicopter crash. And so it turns out that it was engine malfunction, but everybody assumed it'd been, I think it'd been shut down, but it hadn't. And so there was rioting in the streets. There was a curfew set up. There was all sorts of things, and all the airlines had stopped flying into Khartoum, and Pat and I said, we've got to get out of here. And essentially, it was one of those things where I was watching the BBC News, and they were filming our hotel from the outside, all the smoke rising around it. And I was there, look, that's me in the window. So we had to get out, yeah. And none of the airlines, every airline had stopped flying to Khartoum, apart from Lufthansa, and they had the last flight going out, which was like at midnight. But there was a curfew imposed, and so we said, well, how are we going to get to the airport? The airport's about 20-mile drive outside of Khartoum. So we contacted our agent, and our agent basically said, no problem. We can get you a piece of paper that says that you're allowed to go to the airport. So they said, here's this bit of paper written in Arabic, and neither of us spoke Arabic, so we had no idea what it said. And then we managed to convince a driver to take us to the airport. And so we had to the dead of night, no lights, to go past all these checkpoints and try and get past them, get to the airport, which we managed to somehow. And then we got to the airport, and you can imagine there was thousands of people there trying to get onto the one last plane getting out of Khartoum. But we always took cash with us, sensibly. So we're able to basically buy ourselves two tickets onto that plane and off we went. But that was an experience, to say the least.
I thought you were going to tell me you slipped like a ski mask on, you went out acting like a looter or something, and then you got into a car or a motorcycle and you just fucking bailed. You got out of there, you know.
At the time, it was just surreal. It was bizarre, that you're driving through and these checkpoints, these guards are like, they don't mess around, yeah. And all that we had was this piece of paper with Arabic written on it, basically, which we assumed said, these guys are really important, please let them through.
Wow.
So yeah, that was life at Robertson. And then in 2011 I moved to Houston with at the time it was Fuga Robertson, and we kind of like set up the consulting group here. And that was, so big shout out to Mark Webber, who's my boss, and he basically helped me through all that. So those are the Robertson days, and yeah, I think they're fundamental to everything that's happened since, was that time in that great company.
Wow. Are they still around? What's going on with Robertson?
So Robertson is now part of CGG acquired the geoscience division of Fugro in 2013, which Robertson was part of. So that group is now part of CGG. Right
on. Okay. Gotcha. And you spent some time working for CGG technically, didn't you, before Geolog?
Yeah. So from 2013 until last year, I was with CGG here in the US, headed up the reservoir characterization group in the US. One of the great things about working with CGG is I got the ability to go to SEDEP, which is a fantastic place. It's kind of like it's the Center for European Business Development. It's based in Fontainebleau in just southeast of Paris, and it was mind blowing. It was just I was very, very honored to be picked to go there. It's basically executive development. And some of the teachings on innovation, blue ocean theory, you may have heard of that kind of like originated from people who work in SEDEP. Storytelling, leadership, importance of people, key influence there, Thomas Hinterseer, Jens Meyer, Christoph Gillet. And it's kind of like a club. So companies like Renault and L'Oreal basically sponsor it, and they put their people through this management training. So it really opened my eyes to innovation, particularly storytelling. That was really cool. And leadership and that type of thing. So being able to communicate effectively, being able to innovate, understanding what innovation means from both the idea generating something that is useful to a customer that a customer will pay for. Those sorts of things. That was like, it was great. So I'd recommend that. I can't say enough good things about SEDEP.
Right on.
So
did you get to work with Graham Spence?
Yes, Graham and I worked together. Yeah.
Nice.
I've known Graham for many, many years.
Right on.
So Graham now, obviously working for another company. But yeah, no, we had some great times together.
Right on. Yeah, I could say the same. Right on. Okay, so now Geolog, right? You get into Geolog, you got all this history, you got all this experience. You know, when you're traveling the world, you got to have a fistful of cash just in case. You know, you're ready. You're ready for anything. What was it about Geolog? What is it about Geolog? You know, that gets you going, that gets you up before your alarm clock goes.
You know the great thing about Geolog as a company. Well, there's a number of great things about Geolog. First of all, it's a privately owned company, right? So I have my boss is the CEO of the company. I have a direct line to him. We chat on a regular basis. He's actually here. He's based in Dubai, but he's coincidentally he's here. He's here. You may see him walk behind me sometime. So that's really cool. So it's a privately owned company, and so. Very short reporting lines, very quick decision making. That's number one. Secondly, the other thing that's really cool about this company is the value they hold in generating quality data, right? Which kind of like will segue into what I'm doing and where I am. But those two things are really good. So I really like the fact that I'm back handling working data, doing technical work, building businesses. Building all that stuff is really cool, and the data I'm handling is cuttings data, so it brings me back full circle to that sedimentological background, which is where I live, where I belong. So
I mean, it takes you back to that interview at Robertson.
Exactly, yeah. The toughest interview in the world. That's the one I'm talking about, yeah. So
look, I don't care if it's for a job that you're being a barista or a geologist, your interview should start with a sack of cuttings and tell me what's going on here.
So that was it. Back in Robertson, they spring this on you. They basically they put out a length of core, right? And said, right, go on, you've got 30 minutes to describe it, right? Okay, that's fine. So do that. Then they give you a load of thin sections. So you got 30 minutes to describe these thin sections. I don't know what it's like now, but that was what it was like back in 1996. Yeah, and it really puts you on the spot, man. So that's really that was really cool. But yeah, it's gone full circle. Yeah. So now we're so Geology, the Geolog is a company that probably collects the most amount of surface data from drilled wells any day. Certainly from a private company point of view, we were on hundreds of wells around the world collecting data, whether it be mud gas data, whether it be cuttings data, and then we're doing cool things with that data. Mm-hmm. And our customers, to the value of our customers. That's really cool. And so when I joined the company, so I have a title which is Energy Transition and Data Science. And so the data science piece is really trying to better understand what we can do with data, what we can generate from that data for the benefit of our customers, and how can we do it efficiently, quickly, but always maintaining the quality and the consistency of the way that data is analyzed, whether it be cuttings data, whether it be mud gas data, whether it be drilling data, the three main tranches of that. And then the energy transition piece is, we'll get to in a minute. You may not realize that the first well that Geolog ever sat on was actually a geothermal well in the Po Valley in Italy. And so it has this heritage of geothermal activity going back to 1982, which means that this is our 40th anniversary this year. And so the energy transition piece is all about, can we further explore and further focus on our geothermal history as well as our oil and gas history? And so that's the energy transition piece as well, which is really quite interesting as well. So.
Yeah, love that. I love that it's the energy coming from the earth, the subsurface is what the focus is, not from the sun or the wind or whatever. Those are cool. Yeah. Geothermal and oil and gas, that's the way to go.
The two places where everybody is, everybody should be really, because that really is the future. Yeah.
Skips, you going to say something?
I was going to say, so Po Valley, is that you're looking at Jurassic sediments there for the most part? Is that what you're drilling into? I'm semi-familiar with the geology in Italy, and I'm just curious because there's that northern Italy, that stretch between, like just south of Milan all the way, to basically Geneva. That whole area is just it's a crock pot and disaster, and it's beautiful. So I'm just curious.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Okay.
But it's pretty cool because you mentioned Milan, and obviously one of our main base, like where the company, like where it started from, is Milan. So Geolog's an Italian company. So in Milan, that's where our manufacturing is done. We have the largest population in Milan. We have our geotech labs in Milan. So that's kind of like the heart and soul of the company.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I was gonna say, one last question. So, you're traveling the world, Robertson, and now you're at Geolog, and you're like you said at the very beginning of this, you shouted out not only the company itself, but all the people and all the areas that you're working from. Like you said, North Africa to the Middle East to all across the U.S. Has this been the largest amount of data that you've had a chance to look at as far as just like big picture geology?
Yeah, it's quite interesting because in the early days, and we at Robertson, we had a tremendous database that had been collected over the years. So this is probably comparable. A lot of the work that Geolog does is on a proprietary basis. What we're trying to do now is obviously build data sets as well, build databases, and try and get some collaboration in terms of consortiums and this type of thing. So it's probably comparable. But the amount of data collected on a daily basis, this is probably the largest globally that I've ever been a part of.
So we are officially going into the drill down segment with Dr. Guy Oliver from Geolog. Sir, what I like to visualize thinking about what we're talking about is, like we're sitting on the moon, we're looking at the planet, and you got all these like pin marks of where the units are that Geolog has around the world that right now are collecting 24/7 gas, cuttings, it's doing everything, drill bit, rotation, weight on bit. You're getting all that data back from every one of those units. It's all coming to the servers. It's all getting kind of QC'd and then put back onto the operators or back into the ability to interpret it, the ability to say, what's the earth telling us right now at the drill bit? That visualization is what I get when I think of Geolog now, and what you've teed us up with. You actually see all this data. You actually talk to the people that are handling all this data, from boots on the ground to the servers to delivering a product. Walk us through that. What is that? How many data points is that?
Maybe I can take it back a little bit further, because maybe some of the listeners and viewers maybe don't even know who Geolog is. So maybe let's just step back a little bit. So I'll tell you a little bit about Geolog. I know we mentioned slightly in the previous section, but Geolog is a world leader in oil field services, delivering comprehensive, quality, consistent solutions, data to our customer base. We're a private company, headquartered out of Dubai with a key manufacturing facility in Milan. We make all our own equipment. We make our own logging units or equipment. Everything is field ready, which is really cool. The company is 40 years old this year, which is pretty amazing as well. So it was founded in Milan and in Italy to provide mud modeling services for E&I. And as I said before, on geothermal and oil and gas wells. The other great thing about Geolog is that there's a really strong culture in R&D, investment, technical development, which is why everything we do, as I said, is field ready. So whilst we do analysis in the laboratory, we do analysis in the field, it's all basically can all be interchanged, which is really cool. little bit more about the history, I think, of Geolog. So in 1994, it went from basically focused on Italy to basically expanding internationally into North Africa, mainly following E&I, but expanding out to where we are now, where we have offices or bases in 70 countries around the world, employing 1,500 staff, et cetera, et cetera. It's really, really cool. And I think we have around about 350 mobile laboratories. You mentioned these, looking down from the moon, yeah, around the world, working, sitting on well site, collecting data, monitoring drilling issues. That data is all fed into a system, and it basically goes, directly to the customer, and or we basically interpret and work that data to generate an interpretation and value add for the customer. And all that is really, really cool. Quality of the data is important, yeah? Quality of the data is important, because what I really like about this is quality and consistency. To me, it's really important that if you're generating data from well A, then you can generate the same quality data when well B using the same approach, and therefore you can compare the data from well A with well B. Yeah, and that's really important when you start to basically understand the hydrocarbon habitat and try to understand the asset. We're doing a project for a customer at the moment where it's like a 6-well program. So collecting, mud gas data, collecting cuttings data, everything is measured in a consistent way so that we can correlate the hydrocarbon species, we can correlate the lithophases to basically generate a framework for that particular asset. And so the customer can better understand the hydrocarbon habitat, better understand the heterogeneities of both the fluids and the reservoir. It's really cool, to be able to do that.
And you touch on a cool and in my opinion, a great point there. You're not only looking at the rock, right? You're looking at the fluids and you're looking at the gases coming out of the hole, because I think that's something that a lot of people don't understand the true value in, especially when, you're talking about either unconventionals or like in any kind of newer field or new prospect, understanding how those fluids are interacting with what kind of rock. And then on top of that, what kind of gases are being created from that interaction. I think that's awesome.
Yeah. And it's continuous. And so it's a continuous data set. It's basically hydrocarbon species. It's isotope data. It's C1 to C8. And I'm not going to talk about it much today because my colleagues are going to be doing other podcasts, probably with you guys. So I don't want to steal their thunder, but it's a big part of what we do. Yeah. So collecting that mud gas data and consistently. So it's not just point data; it's consistent data. It's basically log quality data, and it reveals such a lot about the interaction between the gas data, the ROP, and the other drilling parameters is really quite important. So I'm learning a lot as well, because I'm a lowly little sedimentologist, less so a geochemist. So I'm learning a lot from these guys as well, which is really cool. The thing that I like about it is how that then interacts with the lithophases and the lithotyping. So you bring in reservoir quality into the issue as well. So that's all really cool. What else I want to say about Geolog? A couple other things which are really important. 2 years LTI free. We're very proud of that. So we put a lot of people into fairly dangerous places. You've all been on well site. So 2 years LTI free is really cool. The other thing that I really like about this company, because it's privately held, is there's a large emphasis on social responsibility around the world. So the owners of the company are very quick to invest in charitable foundations around the world, helping local populations of where we operate. So I think that's really cool.
Nice. So how do you do the hiring and the moving around of individuals around the world? I mean, like, if you have a job that pops up in some country where you don't have a real local presence, how do you go about deciding who goes there, or do you go into the local universities and find people that are looking for a job and you teach them and then you get them on location? How does that all go?
Yeah, so we have a staffing of around 1,500 people, and we have kind of like a university in the companies. We have a trainer program, so people start at a particular level, and they after various experience and working with equipment and experience, they move up into. So we have kind of like what we call, I guess we call them expats, who basically are able to parachute into a particular job in a particular area. We have key staff in those areas as well, and then that's supplemented by other people. It really all depends on what the job is, whether it's an advanced job or whether it's a basic job, as to who we are. So, jobs we have in the US here, we have our own staff working on them. We have people from Milan coming in to help. So we have quality expertise. And the customers really like that as well, because they want somebody operating the equipment who's got the experience and the longevity, and dare I say it, the white hair. Yeah. Take your cap off, Troy. Like, we can compare.
Got no hair.
We can compare hair, yeah. But you know what I'm talking about. So the experience is key, because that's a big part of what we do. So we have a university system. We have a teaching center in Turkey, where people go there, our staff go there and basically learn how to use the equipment, and then we have a scheme where people can move up the ladder, if you like, based on time experience. So that's really cool.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That it's interesting to think about, like, the different maybe operator rules between countries. What equipment is allowed even to be used in this, in USA versus over there, or how that all goes. I mean, wow, 1,500 employees. What you're talking about just seems so interesting.
It's a logistical machine, basically, in terms of getting the right people, the right equipment into the right place to be able to do the job. I sound like an Amazon app now, but basically, there are parallels here, because if you look at the early days of Amazon, it was always about getting the right things into the right place to be able to deliver to the customer. Yeah, so the right people, right product, and that's how Amazon grew from a very small bookseller into this global giant as it is now, by being able to understand how to do that effectively. And Geolog, in terms of the space that it's operating in, is doing exactly the same thing.
Wow. We actually utilize Geolog on drilling some wells. So me and Skips have actual experience of what you guys offer. And we did a full metal jacket on the thing. We did a lot of stuff. We looked at drill bit wear. We were monitoring that. We were looking for fractures while drilling, right, using that technology and those ideas. We were doing XRF with the gamma ray XRF. So we were able to put all that data back on the vertical logs of an actual wireline log, right? So you're looking at gamma ray from a wireline, very high res, very accurate. And then this mystery of, it could have came from here with the cuttings, plus or minus 15 feet, because there's that, that lag and how they calculate depth and all that on cuttings. Well, when you have XRF gamma ray, boom, all of a sudden that thing's tracking the logs. And we're going, okay, we feel very confident about this one. We don't feel very confident about that one. It was actually Isaac Esau. He was the guy that would come in and say,
shout out to Isaac. Yeah, he's upstairs. He's busily working away at the moment. Yeah. But no, yeah, exactly. And that's all. And I didn't pay you anything to say that. I don't think.
No. And then on top of that, and I think this was, in my opinion, where it was the most helpful is when we were doing, the horizontal or the deviated portion of our well, right? Is because we were able to track, hey, look, maybe, we ran this pilot and we can correlate this across formation, but then all of a sudden, we're looking at XRF gamma and we're just like, dude, this thing is changing a lot. This thing is changing way more than we were even expecting. And it helped us figure out the completion design, right? Because things had to change based on how that rock was changing in formation, which is. And,
I mean, this is great, because this kind of segues into basically what I'm doing here, which is, and what I want to really talk about, which is cuttings data. And the things you're saying are really important, especially if you're using MPD, managed pressure drilling, or gas busters, things like that. the solid return to the surface is not a standard. It changes, especially along these long laterals. And until you get that cuttings data, I call it dynamic data shifting. It's not just bulk shifting. You have to basically look at it with some detail. Until you get that in the right place, then none of that cuttings data means anything. And when we look at cuttings, we're looking at both the inorganic and the organic phase. We'll come to that in a minute. But yeah, it's really cool that you use Geolog services and generated some value, which is excellent.
I wanted to go using that and experience of like the QCing part. It's one thing when you finally realize that, okay, the gamma ray is actually reading incorrectly and you're going to have to divide it by 100 or something because it's off scale and it's just something wrong with the gamma ray. There's something wrong with the tool. That's one thing for QCing. But then there's the whole, is it being interpreted correctly? Is this actually a carbonate or a dolomite or a shale? Are they actually seeing what the cutting really is? And is it accurate? The XRF data and the XRD data stacked on top of that was a QC in itself of the interpretation of what the logger was thinking we were seeing, or what I was even out there looking at and thinking I was seeing. You had the XRF and the XRD to follow that up with. So I just want to talk about QCing just kind of generally from your standpoint. How are you doing that? How do you guys keep track of all that? Equipment failure or equipment possible failure versus, the guy's, possibly sleeping on the job right now. He's calling the wrong rocks. How are you validating what's really going on?
And it's a key part. So, so the process is obviously the samples are caught by sample catchers at the shakers. And then the bags are labeled with the depth, which we assume to be the bottom depth. Okay, now the well site, they'll make a brief lithological description, and then those bags will come back to us, and assuming the customer is paying for the service. So we have this new service called digital cuttings. So where digital cuttings, what we're looking at is not just the elemental data from the XRF, but we're also looking at image analysis. So we're imaging the cuttings. We're taking high-resolution photographs of them, and then we're extracting the high-resolution color extraction. And we're using that color extraction data along with the elemental data to allow us to QC the data, make sure it's in the right place, and then interpret that data from a lithophases point of view. I'll give you an example. We did this really cool job where it's in the Delaware Basin, looking at the Harkey Sands, long lateral, gamma ray was pretty flat. Okay, so the gamma ray is pretty flat, which is maybe a good sign, but it means we're probably in the reservoir. But from the imaging data and the XRF, the elemental data, particularly the anoxic readers like uranium, for example, we saw some changes. And so I was able to basically interpret that data, analyze it, generate lithophases, and we're able to identify, are we in overbank deposits? Are we in the channel axis? Have we hit the channel base? Are we back in the channel axis? And so that long lateral, which was originally a flat gamma, is now being divided into 4 or 5 distinct lithotypes. And of course, that has an impact on facies. And facies has an impact on reservoir quality, and reservoir quality has an impact on what are the best reservoir type for gas storage, in this case, for like where the gas is coming from or hydrocarbons. Yeah. So it's a full circle. But it all goes back to proper handling of the data, both in terms of washing, drying, but in terms of making sure that data is in the right place, the QCs you're talking about, before you can actually interpret it, which is really cool. So the other thing that's really interesting is that now we're not just looking at proprietary data that comes off the well site, but we're also combining that with legacy data sets that are available from state government repositories around the world. And we're collecting this data, and when we're analyzing it in the same system way, cuttings data, comparing it. So you've got fresh data, legacy data, all analyzed the same way, and then we're able to build these like regional frameworks, looking at not just the asset, but how does that facies, those facies vary spatially within the particular play. That's really cool. We're looking at inorganic and organic data as well from cuttings. So it's all really exciting stuff.
Yeah, it's front lines technology. It's front lines interpretation too. What you're talking about, precision beats power, and the industries in the horizontal play in the Permian for sure is going that way with precision beats power.
To me, there's a number of key things. So quality of the data that's been generated, consistency. So we see there's been lots of like acquisitions and mergers, and customers are getting hold of lots of data sets from these mergers, these acquisitions, and then it's a case of, well, what do we do with this data? Because there's no history. We don't know how this data was generated. So suddenly you kind of like lose that consistency, and then you need to then start thinking, well, am I comparing apples with apples? That new data that I've got, can I directly compare it with the existing data I have? So you need to start thinking about all that as well. And I wrote this small article for GeoExplorer last month, one of the 1 minute reads, and it was all about in this world of this AI driven, machine learning driven, which is really cool because of the efficiencies gained from that. But my concern is, have we lost the vision, the importance of the original data set? Making sure the original data set that goes into these really cool scripts and models has to be right, has to be good, yeah. And whilst we go on this juggernaut basically of machine learning, AI, Python scripting, we need to go back, in my opinion, and check that the data is right in the first place. So that's we're doing things in that space as well, and like basically going back and doing that in some of the areas we work in. Consortium studies where we're closed, private consortium studies where we've got 3 or 4 customers sharing data, and basically everything being measured consistently in the laboratory or the well site, so that data being shared amongst those contributors. So we get this better view. You as a customer may have a good handle on, or make it up, the Wolfcamp A in your asset, but do you know what's happening elsewhere, or do you have a good handle on the Bone Springs, the Bone Spring, or Wolfcamp C, or that type of thing? Yeah, and by sharing data, would that help you? And that's what we're doing. We're doing that. We're in that sort of space as well now, which is different, which is a new thing for Geolog.
Wow. Yeah. What's the name of that consortium? How do people get involved, or how do people reach out to find out more?
Yeah. So we feel like there is, apart from just calling it consortiums, I mean, we're like Neil and I are working on various ones in various basins and areas and talking to people, and so we're looking at setting up one in the Delaware at the moment, and others in other areas. But the business model is portable. Yeah, the business model is simply, if you have a philosophy of happy to share data and sharing the costs of that consistent framework, then the consortium is for you. So that's pretty good. We're quite excited about that as well. That's a good one.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, that's cool. So you guys are not only getting all this data back, but you're also on the front, and you're helping to integrate and collaborate.
Correct.
Figure it out, and you guys have this incredibly high resolution data that's telling us, what's going on in what you call the hydrocarbon habitat, right? From rock to fluid to gases. How is it density stratified? How are the cuttings changing as you're getting through the reservoir from top to base? I mean, that is incredibly valuable information.
Yeah, we're not just your standard surface logging company. We're kind of like really pushing the boundaries in terms of science and technology, and most importantly, the key thing is we want to generate value for our customers, above and beyond what the traditional surface logging company. We're all about generating value.
Well, I think that's a great way to segue into the completion part of the show.
Bang.
Are you guys up for that? You want to touch on anything else in the drill down because you really set us up good for, where is Geolog going from here? What are you working on? And how do you see the industry going in the next 5 to 10 years? I mean, you're building consortiums for basin stuff. You got carbonates, you got around the world basins that you can start building consortiums in and applying, this frontline research that you're doing. Are you ready to go into completion and talk about this?
I have two quotes associated with, which I thought were pretty cool. So one's from the Dalai Lama, and the quote is, I'll read it here: "Share your knowledge, it is a way to achieve immortality." So I can't promise immortality if you join one of these consortiums, but I can certainly promise that sharing knowledge is really, really important. And the other one is from a 312 BC, and apologies if my pronunciation is not. It's from a Chinese philosopher, Zhengzi, I think it is. And the quote is, which obviously being translated: "In order to properly understand the big picture, everyone should fear becoming mentally clouded and obsessed with one small section of truth." It's pretty cool, yeah? Now, I'm not sure whether it's a direct translation, but anyway, the point is, the philosophy of that quote is, you can either be focused on one area and the big picture escapes you, or you can look at the big picture to help you answer what's going on in your one space. So I really like those, yeah. And so, sharing data, generating quality, consistent data, whether it be at the well site, whether it be in the laboratory. That's our philosophy. That's who we are.
Right on. Okay. Are we going to start the completions part of the PBE podcast? Are you ready, Dr. Guy Oliver?
I'm ready.
Skippo.
Let's do this.
All right. So the completion part of the PBE podcast is always a good time because we're talking about, today we need real solutions. Today there are the operators that are really diving into new ideas and new ways to apply the data, QC the data, put it in machine algorithms and all that stuff, machine learning stuff, and figure out, how do we get to that next step change? How are we going to get better results moving forward? How are we doing this safer, more efficiently? One question I have for Geolog is, how do you guys as a company, how are you, or who's in charge of following along with cutting edge technologies and the ideas? What's happening in literature, what's happening in peer reviewed papers, the new ideas that are coming out that are making sense, the new technology that's going to have a step change to it. How are you guys managing that?
It's a cool question because the way I see it, I've been here a year, but the thing that's really attractive is that there's this overall culture of an appetite to innovate. And it's not just one person, it's everybody. Yeah, it's everybody. And it doesn't matter where you are in the company, it doesn't matter how long you've been there, everybody has a voice, and everybody is encouraged to think of new ideas and new ways of doing things. Because the overall message is value for our customers. So the guys in the field, have a different view on things to the guys back in the office or the guys in the laboratory. Yeah, and you can imagine all of that. So why have it focused on one person when you got 1,500 people? Yeah. So this continuing appetite to innovate, to push the boundaries, to deliver what our customers want, constantly updating and changing what we can do to make it more efficient and to make it easy for our customers to get that quality, consistent data, quickly, efficiently, so they can use it in their forward thinking. I think that's really cool about this place. It's all about the value. Whether it's oil and gas, whether it's geothermal, it's that constant appetite to innovate, which I think is really, really cool. Going forward, we're constantly thinking about, energy transition. What else can we do in that energy transition space? How can we build on our legacy from that? And how can we you hear this phrase, geothermal anywhere, geothermal everywhere. Yeah. So how can we be a part of that, and how can we make that happen? I think that's a really cool message that I'm pushing out as well to the guys, and we'll see where that takes us. Other things, I haven't spoken to the boss yet about Bitcoin mining, but hey, why not? There's all that energy there that can be harnessed. There's all sorts of things that we can be doing. I think the other great thing about the business and the company is, we're agile enough to adapt our portfolio, and our portfolio is strong enough such that to the benefit of our customers. So it's constantly adapting, constantly changing. If you've ever read blue ocean theory, you'll know about blue oceans and red oceans, and in terms of innovation and innovation cycles. So all that is what's happening here at the moment, which is great. We don't want to stand still. Standing still is not an option. It can't be an option. One of my influences from a long time ago, and if he listens to this, he'll know who it is. Once told me, standing still means you become stagnant. And being stagnant will eventually lead to your downfall. Just what you guys are doing here. It's innovative, So I think from a company point of view, it's a really, it's innovation. It's been agile. It's those short reporting lines. It's being able to adapt quickly and move quickly with the times.
How is it done? How is it done in Geolog? Is it emails? Is it conference calls? Is it phone calls? Like, I have a new idea. I saw a new machine. This is what it's all about. How does that guy, that one of the 1,500, get heard and really listened to in Geolog? How does it actually work?
Yeah, it's all of the above. It's basically there's no forms to fill in. It's hey, I've got an idea. Let's talk about it. Let's see what it means. Maybe try this, try that. It's a quick phone call to the executive team of the company, and it's a case of let's do it. What are the values? What are the advantages? Where we're going to take us? Let's give it a go. And first lesson of innovation is not being afraid to fail. Yeah. And the second lesson of innovation is cut out all the red tape. Yeah, those two things are killers of innovation. So Geolog with its private company, short reporting lines, it's perfect for those types of things to flourish. Yeah. So example, one of the guys came off the field the other day and clearly buzzing with some ideas, came through here, basically talked, said, oh, I've got these great ideas, and now we're kind of thinking of ways in which we can potentially implement the ideas that he's come up with, just like that. So of course there has to be some sort of financial controls and things. So we're not doing things recklessly. There is control through the system, but it's not bogged down in red tape and are you sure that will work? Yeah. It's really quite the agility is really nice.
Yeah. And I'd say, that's the most important thing is those ideas just being heard in general. Like you said, it's a logistical nightmare, right? Like you've got 1,500 employees, you're sending equipment and people all over the world, right? And I'm sure everyone has, something that, hey, this could be a little bit better or that can be a little bit better. But having the ability to integrate from, the field to your office to the other offices, it's just, I feel like that's worth its weight in gold. And you can kind of see that with the progression of Geolog, right? Like how, you kind of touch on everyone from not only a geologist, but to a petrophysicist, all the way to production, all the way to drilling, right? It's more than just looking at cuttings.
Exactly. We're touching all those key people in our customer base. And that's really cool. Yeah.
So how do you vision how, if PBE podcast could go from one division to the next in Geolog and really explain and show, how the drillers work and how the Rocky Valve Paralysis geochemists work and how the CEO and CFO works, how boots on the ground works, putting a camera out there and watching them collect the cuttings from real time and talking to them about that, capturing all that. How do you plan on doing that? How do you tell the story of Geolog?
The Geolog can be summed up to me, and this is my personal opinion, in one phrase. It's passion. It's the passion and drive to generate quality, consistent data for our customers. And that is how I would sum up the company. And then you can basically expand on that by saying through its culture of innovation, its culture of R&D, its culture of listening to what the customer wants, and generating equipment, building equipment and services that allows us to generate that data and those services, those products that the customer is interested in. And that will just keep on going. I mean, I'm not sure how many patents we have in the company, but it's something around 50 as we continue to innovate and build new things.
Wow. I mean, that is really, really cool to think about. And that's definitely where I would like to go for just my own experience, my own just information of, the inner workings of Geolog, new ideas that goes all the way to the CFO. And they're like, look, we're not going to spend $50,000 on something that's just not going to return its investment, and then the person that thought of the ideas now gets the experience of and knowledge and information of, I better think of the next one economically because it's a great idea, but it's just not going to work financially. That makes sense. Just the inner workings of this company is really interesting to me. And so the next 20 years, you're going to get geothermal, oil and gas it's not going anywhere anytime soon. We're just going to get better and more efficient, safer. What's the focus? Where do you see this going? How do you see your career going for the next 10 years, 15 years?
I think data is important, and how we deliver that data to our customers in an efficient way, how we can utilize AI and machine learning to more efficiently generate and deliver data to our customers. How we can, what I like is for our customer to be able to access our data from any device anywhere in the world. So I think data delivery is key, using AI scripting, machine learning to interrogate that data, to understand that data, and deliver interpretations to that data to the customer on the fly, really, really quickly. I think that's probably a way. So I think everyone's doing that, and we're in that space as well. I think that will be the big step change in our industry. Our customers will expect it, will demand it. And we need to be, delivering it in that way.
Right on. I was thinking while you were explaining all that, just the complexity, I guess, of that, but also the reality that it has to happen. So you guys are preparing for that. You guys are the transition to that step change. I mean,
we're doing it now. Yeah, we're doing it now, and that's just going to continually evolve as we go forward. So our customers will demand. Will demand, and they're right to demand quality, consistent data delivered quickly on to any device anywhere in the world. How
about papers, peer-reviewed stuff, getting what you guys do out there? Where are you at on that front?
Yeah, no, it's a key plank of what we do. So we are constantly doing a number of things, but peer-reviewed papers with our customers on particular, whether it's case studies, whether it's case studying a geographic area or basin asset, or whether it's case studying a particular type or combination of products and services. Those are crucial to our business, as they are with anybody really. It's the credibility that's important, and we're constantly doing that, constantly doing that. Talking at conferences or workshops. We do a lot of work with SPWLA. There'll be a shout out at the end. Constantly presenting at those forums.
Right on. Well, that's definitely where the magic really happens. Me and Skip's got a very fortunate experience of getting our travel paid for and being able to go to those big events, right? And integrate with these people and butt heads and say, no, this is what I'm saying, this is what I think, and watching a talk and looking at the data. Those conventions are so valuable. And, I would argue that we're starting to see maybe it not seeming the conferences don't seem to be generating a lot of interest. There's kind of an anomaly happening, and now we're seeing the AAPG and the SPE talking about merging, right, and creating a bigger society that's more integrated, and the concepts there. But does Geolog send a lot of folks to these conferences? Do you guys go to several conferences a year?
Yeah, so key ones, and obviously, you have to look at value because they're expensive. And I think the last 2 years for all of us globally has seen a big change in the attitude towards the conference, where you have thousands of people attending. Maybe those are a thing of the past, but we get value out of going to SPWA conferences where we're presenting at them. That's the biggest value. Or smaller conferences maybe, but we'll pick and choose depending on what we want to do, depending on what our messaging is. But always we are encouraging our staff to present technical papers at these conferences, because that's where the value is. We're no different to anybody else in that respect, whether it be geothermal or whether it be oil and gas focused. Those key things, and certain conferences will set up a booth as well. But I think the key driver for us is presenting at those conferences.
That's great. I like that. We should do PBE conference once a month and just get people to come in and talk and open it up to the forum. Just make it digital. Innovation. Yeah. Let's do it. Let's just get that camaraderie, right, and that engagement, and just get the new technology out there in several different ways. If that could be something we can get into. What do you think, Skip?
Yeah, I'm here for that. Some way to get the people engaged again, get the ideas flowing again after this COVID lull.
That's right.
Yeah. Right. We're in a different world now, yeah.
So they say. It's a
wild one right now.
Well, I'm excited. I'm certainly excited for you. How long have you been in Geolog now?
Just about a year. About 1 year.
Wow.
Right. I've known these guys for a long time, but physically working with them for about a year.
Wow, a year going on many. I'm excited for Geolog. I love everybody over there that we got to work with. I'm definitely down for more shows. Like you made a suggestion of going into departments and drilling down into that stuff, interpreting some of the data with the guys that are looking at it, thinking of these new ideas and promoting them and showing that, the engagement is not always comfortable. We don't always agree, but that's where the magic happens. If you can get through those differences and think about it logically, maybe we can come up with something that's real value for people that are listening and tuning in.
Yeah. I mean, you need to do that real-time mud gas data, consistently measured mud gas data with the isotope data, which is so cool. It really is so cool. So.
Mm-hmm. Right on.
But get Isaac in front of the camera.
Sir, any last words for the show?
Just a big thank you, guys. Really big thank you. Loved it. Had a great time talking with you guys. We got a commitment to get this thing fired up. So that we'll see if we can make that happen. But no, I just really enjoyed the chat. The fact that we share the same values and views, it's just great. So thank you very much.